Dive into the legend of the future where gods, adventurers, magic, and spectacular settings clash. It feels like a Dungeons & Dragons adventure, but the story rapidly develops layer upon layer with hints of science fiction, familiar ties with planet Earth, and a shrouded, deceitfully rewritten history. Adventurers serve a pantheon of gods called Tekka, but did they really create everything? Or are those adventurers baited with a vain hope for glory, riches, and fame for purposes only known by the gods? Many have succeeded, but countless others have met untimely doom or been discarded by the gods. Put together the clues of intrigue, mystery, and adventure as you follow fate fusing together four strangers, and with them face powerful foes, strange creatures, and the innovative story of this impossible quest that has never been told in the history of literature. Can you figure out where this story is going? Find Scepter of the Gods, The Rod of Truth now on Amazon and get immersed in the beginning of a 5-book saga that will not let you go.
Good morning and welcome to the Motivational Devotional, where we are merging motivation and spirituality to create a daily dose of confident positivity. I hope that this morning's podcast will help you to be more spiritually and positively motivated so that you can transform your day.
Good morning. I am Mark the Writer, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you know anyone who could use some encouragement in setting goals or spiritual development, then please share this podcast or the blog version from motivational-devotional.com. Also, why not visit the Motivational Devotional Facebook page and follow us there? You can listen to every episode right on the page and comment. Now, let's get started with today's Motivational Devotional. A couple of years ago, I took vacation time from the job I had at the time to build a fence in the backyard of the home we had owned for about a year. It's the home where I live now, and one reason for buying it was that it has a great backyard. However, having dogs, we needed to be able to let them run. We wanted to have our very own at-home dog park. Now, the local dog park is about 4 acres, and my entire house lot is half an acre, with a fenced area of about, maybe an eighth of an acre, but still, it's plenty of room for 2 or 3 dogs to run and play and fetch. Building the thing was a lot of work. I rented a hole auger since I needed to drill 18 holes for the fence posts. I lugged 80-pound bags of concrete across the yard with a 2-wheel dolly to put half a bag into each hole and set the posts. Having a husky, I couldn't build a 4-foot fence and have it be effective, so I built a 6-foot fence that was about 50 feet on each side and about 75 feet across the back. Each roll of that 6-foot chain-link fence fabric weighs a little over 100 pounds, and so when the project was done, as satisfied as I was with it, I was one worn-out guy. Don't tell my neurosurgeon, since I had disc replacement surgery only 18 months before that, but I did okay, and I'm still doing okay. When it was all done, I played with my dogs like crazy, and since then we've really enjoyed having a contained area. The funny thing about it is that even with it being a chain-link fence, one of my neighbors has treated me differently ever since. This neighbor used to just show up in my backyard while I was working out there with his own dog on a leash, because they were on their way up the street for their walk, and for some reason, he chose to start the walk through my backyard. It was as if my putting up a fence that he could still look through, talk to me, and carry on a conversation somehow was a way of driving a wedge between us and our neighbors. In short, my putting up a fence caused him great offense. What? How can that be? It's my property, after all, and it's my dogs who needed the contained area for their own safety and exercise. How is it that my creating a boundary had anything to do with him at all? Then I realized that it was because he had grown used to there not being any boundaries at all. He had mowed the grass for the previous homeowner. He had treated my yard as an extension of his own yard. In fact, he still treats my front yard that way, but not very much. I don't make a big deal about it. Like my neighbor on the other side has said a couple of times, I'm not much of a property line kind of guy. I do want to make sure I don't give away any of my investment, but I'm not too concerned about whether a neighbor's dog poops in my front yard and they don't clean it up. Yes, that has happened. No big deal. Well, it was to the person who stopped by to pick me up one day, but that's perhaps another story. I think this is a perfect way of illustrating what a lot of people do in a lot of other ways. If you don't have certain boundaries in place, People become accustomed to walking all over areas of your life, and then when you realize it and put up boundaries that make it clear you're not going to let that happen, they get offended. They act like you have done something to them, when in fact all you've done is clarify where you are willing to let people tread and where you're not. I'm not going to give a lot of examples, because the more examples I might give, the less you might recognize another area where you're letting it happen just because it doesn't match one of my examples. Now, I did not put my back fence up just to keep that guy out of my yard. I did it for a positive reason, which was a reason that benefited my family and my pets. You will find, though, that when someone is not respecting where your boundaries should be, even if you're not maintaining them, you can feel it in your gut. You see it happening or you recognize it, but you don't say anything because it's already been going on and you aren't sure how to put a boundary, like a fence, in place to make it discontinue without it causing some serious issues. In fact, if the trespasser in areas of your life is a bully, putting up boundaries might create some very tense situations. Do what you feel you can do. And if you feel you need somebody to support you, find such a person before putting up the boundaries. Make sure you know right off the bat, though, that it's your fence you put in place for your own positive outcomes, not just to tick somebody else off, and you are creating a boundary for yourself. It's okay. At first you might be a little scared, but it will work out. If it isn't working out, rely on that support person. If that isn't working out, find someone who can help you ensure that your boundaries are respected and stay in place. Your personal health and your pursuit of your lifelong dream depends on it. As you build that fence, realize that another person's offense at your fence is not your responsibility, and release any attachment to feeling responsible. As you maintain your clarity about your fences and release attachment to other people's offenses, know that all of creation is conspiring in your favor. Always trust that the universe has your back, and you will find that much of your anxiety about it will fade away. 19th century writer Gilbert K. Chesterton once said, "Don't ever take a fence down until you know why it was put up."
Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Please help keep this podcast going by following the Motivational Devotional Facebook page, following @Threefold Way Radio on Twitter, and sharing the written format of today's message from motivational-devotional.com on your social media. I am deeply grateful for your support, and thank you for letting Motivational Devotional be part of your journey. Peace out. See you tomorrow.
Motivational Devotional is a production of Threefold Way Radio, LLC.